Hey, Andrew Wood back with another True to the Game video. I'm going to be talking, kind of covering two things here. I've been planning to do a video today about plug and play versus character dependent games. I'm going to get into explaining what that is a little bit more in depth. But I just finished watching Tim or Samwise's video, Bad RPG Attendance Rescheduling Sessions, Missing Players. I thought that merited some discussion and ties in slightly with what I already planned to talk about, so I'm going to try to shoot to knock both of those out. Scheduling problems with players can definitely be a real nightmare, and it gets worse the more players you have. Going back into what I was talking about before about group size, having too many players in a group is only going to amplify the amount of players that turn up missing. If you have one player, well, you don't have a game if that person shows up. Two players, it's not that difficult to work around schedules. We're going to be able to find them. Of course, you talked about another thing, Tim, in terms of players that just aren't really interested in the game anymore. I haven't had too many of those issues over my gaming time, fortunately enough, but it is, I guess, unfortunate when that happens and your friends sort of go along that other path and you're not really going to be able to include them in that journey with you. So I definitely can see that being a problem. For me, the problems are more that the people still want to be there, but they have so many outside issues. They have children, sometimes multiple children, they're married, they have a bad job schedule, or the number of people that I have, and I have to make very tough calls. So if I could run the game on one or two nights, I don't want to run a game twice a week, but I can run the game on one of two nights. I have to sometimes pick, and that excludes people from being able to play in the game, and then of course they get upset that they weren't on the group that got picked, and I try to flip that back and forth so I can, in different campaigns, get different people in there. As I have a very large, fortunately this area is probably one of the highest concentrations of gamers in the entire world, in the Tyrone, Virginia area, with all the military bases we have around here. So I have a large number of people in my overall gaming group, and I try to mix different people in to keep it fresh and more interesting. So it doesn't really fall into that much of a rut. But also I've had problems with players having unstable girlfriends that want to text them every 5 minutes with their jealousy and their ridiculous issues, or their girlfriend situation. They break up with them, and they have to leave in the middle of the game, or all kinds of ridiculous things I've had there with girlfriend issues being disruptive to games over the years. I've had players that really try to make the stretch, players that live over an hour away that try to drive in and they get problems and they go, oh, well, I can't make it this week, or oh, the gas is so much, I got to skip a week, and that sort of thing is a real pain in the ass to have to deal with players like that. Typically, only really good friends do I extend that sort of courtesy to allow them in. There's a large body of water where I live, and there's a tunnel. I don't let anyone, that's my cutoff point, unless that's a really good friend on the other side of the tunnel. I don't let any of those people play. I have them on several different sites around here, Meetup, on the White Wolf site, different sites to try to get new players to add to our large gaming group. And when the people from the places are a little too far away from, like Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Suffolk, when those people write me, I just tell them, no, I'm not interested in having you, because that reality sets in when it's an hour and a half drive here over the good conditions. If there's traffic, and then they are more likely to have that sort of drop out. But yeah, I'm definitely sorry to hear that happen to you, man. Having absolutely no one show up at the game is definitely the balls. I've never had that happen. I have had people say they were going to be there and then have to call them and try to get a hold of them and things like that. But usually the people that I have play are pretty good about getting a hold of me. But then again, that goes into the fact of my thing there. You said you're not confrontational. I'm very confrontational, and they know they're going to get it. Like if someone just stands me up like that, they're going to get really yelled at. And I think that basically someone just feels that they can disrespect you. And they can disrespect you while being the path of least resistance. Sometimes you have to be more like the rock in the river to get your due, to get your respect. And that's definitely would be advice of mine to other game masters who are having problems with that. Don't just let your players walk all over you. You're the one there doing them a favor by running the game. Them showing up isn't the favor. They should be happy and honored. You're putting on and providing your energy and time, effort, and your money and buying all these books and reading them. There's absolutely no excuse for that sort of level of disrespect. And I have no qualms about dressing someone down in front of large groups of other people for being a punk ass like that, because that is just a punk ass bitch behavior right there, in all honesty, and quite disgusting to me. because that's really the kind of thing that kind of drives someone and grinds them out and makes them really just want to give up on the hobby. So, I definitely very sorry to hear that happened to you. For my group, what we like to do is typically play for 3 or 4 hours, and then we'll go, run down to Subway or Wendy's or Hardee's or whatever. I have, fortunately, a lot of fast food restaurants that are close to me, so we'll go to one of those, or we'll go get a pizza or something like that, and take like a break for about a 30-minute break during the game. You talk about people that just don't care, and that's just really disappointing to me. I've again, my situation with players has just been having the players just really not be able to show up due to so many outside commitments or something. That's why I'm so big on not giving people experience points if they're not there, because I find the more you kind of twist them and they go, oh gosh, I really had to be there to get this, the more they're going to try their utmost to be there. And sometimes, somebody can, one of my friends, a firefighter that plays in our group, sometimes he has to work on Friday nights, but sometimes he can, if he really cajoles and wriggles, he can get that Friday night off. So, you put a little extra pressure on him, and he's more likely to attend. I generally do not cancel games for players not showing up. I had like a 6-player group, and only 2 of them showed up one time. And I knew that beforehand, but still only 2 players. I said, we're going to rock and roll. I'm going to do something with you guys. You guys will get your experience. We're gonna come over here and do something on the side. Sometimes you have to sort of limit the scope of what those players are going to do, and the other players, when they get back and say, okay, well, this amount of time has passed. I'm not, your character essentially didn't really do anything. It's basically like if you're watching a TV show. It's an episode that transpired, and it just was not heavy on those characters. They were just sort of in the background. They might have asked those characters something, and I'll feed them lines. I will play other people's characters. I'm comfortable doing that as long as I've seen them play them at least for one game session. I continually have found that I can nail what personalities I put together very, very quickly. That's something that I feel comfortable doing. It's something I don't like doing. It is a tax, as you mentioned, definitely a tax on the game. And you talk about people that only make it half the time, and it really sucks when you've made an integral plot for that person. The best thing I would say is, well, those times they do show up, really work them and get that plot over, get your material in, and start trying to skew it off towards the people that are actually going to be there, try to give them the benefits, and just sort of start writing that person out. And if they only want to show up half the time, kick them to the back of the group, man. Just let them sit there with no spotlight on, with nothing, and then, if you don't want to be confrontational, they say something to you, say, hey, man, I'm sorry, I can't rely on you. You are not dependable. Make them come to you. And you can put that in much nicer, gentler terms, than that. But that might get them to really think and go, gosh, I've disrespected this guy. I need to do better. Or, perhaps to be a parting of the ways. And quite frankly, you don't need a player that's only going to be there half the time. Someone that's disrespected to that level, to me, that's not a friend. That's someone that you definitely don't need around. I really don't like the idea of poofing characters in and out of existence. I just try to role play them, and I like to try to pass large tracts of time in my game. So I'll typically try to get them back to some place like a city or town or whatever, and have that character go off and do whatever. And I just tell my players, no, just don't bother with that NPC there. I don't want to be taxed with that. And if you force me to, you're basically just wasting your own game time. So they just kind of figure out, it's like, if you have a script, you can't really vary from that. You can't, run off, and if you're watching a show and you're in a season and a character has been written out because that woman is like pregnant or something, well, you can't go get her character, you can't talk to her, so you have to sort of wait. They might talk about that character, they might even sort of feign going to get him, but they don't do that. And like I said, I'll play the character until we get there. And if it's a combat, I usually just have that character just beaten senseless and knocked unconscious as quickly as possible, giving them the benefit of their hit points, and allows the people that are there to get the spotlight. I definitely try, if you're not there, I'm definitely not going to have your character doing the cool things in combat. I don't want you to be like killing the boss off or any of that stuff. I want to leave that stuff for the people that are there. I definitely think that. Let's see here. Make sure you get your other notes. But yeah, let me talk a little bit about plug and play style and character dependent games. Now, plug and play to me is sort of like that basic module style. You can plug this adventure anywhere with any characters. It doesn't really matter. The characters are not dependent and are not important to the game that you're running. That's a plug and play style. I've seen this game style work to some degree in games, but it does not give you that deep level immersion that the character-dependent games do. When I write a game, I'm very much character-dependent. I would like to have my characters made by the players up to a year in advance of the game. That might sound almost extreme to some people, but I carefully, while I'm running one game, I'll carefully work on the next one, and I can work on it in much more greater detail if I know what you want to portray in that game, so I can continually tie in and integrate your idea of your character to what I want to do. That's the style of character-dependent game that I like to have. So if there's 6 characters, I start coming up with the reasons to sort of weave them together, and they don't know what each other is playing, so I start making them not only be have similarities but have contrasting differences, and to mirror each other in certain aspects, to build them up in different ways, to bring various plots together, and then I begin to attach various different NPCs to them, and then have plots run back around between those NPCs, and it gets very complicated and very intricate, and the players really like it, and that's what one of the large things that I think sets the game I run apart from the typical game is by integrating the characters so deeply into it that the characters become extremely important to the game. Now, that is a huge problem when characters don't show up, when they bail out. One person going by the wayside can really cause a lot of problems to the game, because then I have to just fumble around and try to reconstruct things, and I try to have large numbers of overarching background plots and lots of subplots to try to fix that up. But it's definitely a very big problem for me when the players don't show up, and the people that I trust the most are the people I'm going to write the biggest and most integral parts for, because I know they're going to continue to be there, or at least my suspicion is of that. Now, through the plug and play style, sort of isn't that important if people miss and if people just drop out of your game entirely, because the game itself isn't really, the game is invested sort of in a plot or in several plots, and it really doesn't matter who came to the call to heed those plots, or the very like a module. Any characters could be in that. There's going to be thousands of different characters in a Wizards of the Coast produced module over the years. Thousands of different characters are going to go through that module, and it doesn't matter what characters are in there, with maybe a slight amount they need a wizard or a priest or something. And I find that sort of style really shows, and is to me not really all that interesting. I've seen the Frustrated Writer I talk about below has that plug and play style, often with some elements of the character dependent game, because they want you to play. They have certain roles, but it doesn't really matter who or what takes those roles. So those are 2 styles of games. I'm curious to see what style you use. And my camera completely went out there for a minute. So yeah, leave comments below. Let me know what you think of those styles and what you think about player attendance.